Hello, good morning. Everyone, welcome to FMX 2023. I'm Julius Dorsal. I study interactive media at Animation Institute. And yeah, the next talk, Endling, Extinction is Forever, a game, making a game with a message, fits very well to the trailer we just saw. It's also a game that takes place in a world, like our own world, that is riddled by pollution and corporate greed, cutting down trees and killing animals. And one of those animals you get to play in Endling, which is a fox mother with her cubs that has to survive. I just finished the game yesterday, and I can very much say it is a game with a message, and that message comes across. And it's a game I very much also recommend to play. It's well worth the time and money you spend in it, and getting immersed in the world and the lives of the fox you play as. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Philipp Nägelsbach, who will tell you more about this game. And afterwards, we have 10 to 15 minutes for questions, so keep them coming later. Thanks.
Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to this talk, Endling Extinction is Forever, a game with a message. I'm already a bit in survival mode now, because being on stage here is always kicks in my survival instincts. And now I got told that I'm, I guess, the only games talk on FMX, so this is the Endling of game talks. Well, let's make the best out of it. So video games are a real great tool, a powerful tool to get a message across. And I want to show you how this was done in the case of Endling. And I will show you a bit like what the game is, and then some design decisions that were made in order to get the message across. First, I'm Philipp Nägelsbach. I'm a producer and game designer at Handy Games. I studied audiovisual media here at the HDM Stuttgart over 15 years ago, and since then I've been working for Handy Games. And on the left side you can see me here. I was at the European Parliament in Brussels, showcasing the game during an event for sustainability and how games can help with the Green Deal. So this was a great opportunity to show the game to people there and politicians and so on. On the right side, you can see some of the games that I made in the time as game designer and producer. And you will notice a few things. One is there's a lot of games featuring animals, but also, well, you won't notice it directly, those are not games with a message. Well, that's not the main thing they are about. They're mostly about cool game mechanics, and then you create the game with cool mechanics, and then you have a scenario around it later in the process. But that was not how we approached Endling. You can see the latest project I made on the top left is Townsman VR, a VR game. It also got a lot of recognition. We won the Best Game Design in 2018 for this at the DCP, and last year at the Deutscher Entwicklerpreis, we were nominated for Best Innovation. But I am not the game designer of Endling. So, because Endling was not done by me, it was done by a different company. I was a producer only on this project, but the developers couldn't make it, so I'm the next best. Handy Games was founded in 2000 by those guys. And we started as a company for mobile games, developing and self-publishing mobile games. But over years, we started developing for other platforms, consoles, PC, and VR, like you saw before. And since 2018, we are part of THQ Nordic from Austria, and they are part of the Embracer Group from Sweden. And since then, we started not only developing our own games, but also publishing games from other studios. So we are now an indie publisher on top of a developer, and we also do mobile porting of their titles. For example, Wreckfest was the latest game we ported to mobile. We're around 80 employees, and we also have a company in Cologne, Massive Mini Team, who is part of Handy Games. There are additional 20 people, so overall maybe 100 people. And yeah, when we are publishing a game, that means we are financing the game, We're doing QA, localization, maybe voice recordings if it's required, and the whole marketing, PR, sales distribution, and also the community management a bit and the customer support. The game was done by HeroBeat Studios from Barcelona, Spain. And HeroBeat Studios was founded by Javier Ramelo and Pablo Hernandez. And they founded the company with the idea to make games with a message. And we met them in 2019 at the Gamescom and signed a contract afterwards and then started developing the game in that time. So at the start, I want to show you the trailer for the game so that you have an idea what the game is about. So an Endling is the last known individual of a species. So if you, as with mother fox, die, then you are the species is extinct. But you start as a pregnant fox, so you get your cubs on the way, and then you are basically the last fox family on Earth. And your goal is you need to explore the world, and you need to protect your cubs. You need to feed them, teach them, and the main goal in the game is to find one of your cubs that has gone missing, was kidnapped or cubnapped, as I want to say. I like to say. And the main goal, overarching goal, is to find a safe place for you and your cubs to live in peace. And your cubs in the game are basically your lives. If all your cubs die, then it's game over. When you design a game around a message, then it's in general, I think it's a great idea to have some design pillars that you can always compare your design decisions with. So every time you need to design something and say, oh, do I want to go this way or this way, you can compare it to one of those pillars and say, oh, that goes better with this pillar, so it doesn't work against it, so we choose this option. That helps with all the design decisions and helps the game, in the end, deliver on the initial idea. And the three main pillars were defined in the beginning where it stays. So the game is built around raising awareness and delivering an emotional and eco-conscious message. And the game doesn't shy away to also show violence to do this, for example. And the people that play the game should think about the game even long after they have finished it. So this is one of the main goals. So every decision that helps reach this goal is a good decision. The second pillar is deal with the consequences. The decisions that you're making in the game are not reversible. It's not a game about trial and error. If you decide you do something, then you won't see the other thing. And the game is made to be authentic. So you're not the hero saving the world in this game. You are just in the world to survive. You only are, you're not a Disney character fox. Like you are not a talking fox that's acting like a human, but you are only able to do things that an animal could do. If you want to have a game with a message, you need to know what the message is that you want to bring across. And the case of Endling, it's already in the title. Like I explained before, if the Endling dies when the species is extinct, and of course that is something that cannot be undone, the species is then gone forever. And all animals and living beings are part of an ecosystem. And the more you take out of that ecosystem, then that breaks like food chains and so on, and that has other effects, and then it's an irreversible situation you have there, and then the whole ecosystem collapses. And that's something, of course, that the developers and we as well were very concerned about, and that's why the game wants to raise awareness about those issues and wants to show in the game how the effect is on animals and especially also on humans. The game is from the eyes of an animal, but it shows the suffering of humans as well, because that's important. If it hits us as well, then it makes us think, oh, what can we do about it? And that's the main thing we want to do here. We want to inspire players to think about those issues. The game is not an educational game that tells you exactly how to do stuff or what the background is. It makes players think about this, combine that in their head together, and they need to come to their own conclusions what to do about the issue. The topics that are touched in the game are, of course, the extinction of animals. You can see here in the background you have the sign of preserved species. And you see there's only maybe the rabbit is still alive and the deer and the badger, but all the animals living here have not been seen in a long, long time. And later also you see stuff like bee mortality touched slightly. And like I said, the collapse of ecosystems overall. Pollution is a big topic there. You see rivers getting polluted by waste. Also chemical waste put in. You see scientists then observing what's happening there and trying to find solutions. But of course, they are already too late in this game. And there's also something that's shown in the game. People tried to do something about the issues, but were too late. You see abandoned solar power plants that didn't contribute enough to make the issues go away. You see the forests being destroyed. In the beginning, you have this forest fire also pictured here. And later, you have a forest that gets cut down by humans with their machines. And forests are an important habitat for animals to live in. If you destroy that, you take away that space for the animals. And it also shows all the health issues on the people and animals. You see them getting sick and of course, also dying. And that has an effect on the society of the humans as well. You see them being climate refugees that have to go to live in a dumping camp. And some humans are getting very cruel, are in survival mode themselves and only thinking about their own survival. And those are the animals that are dangerous, the humans that are dangerous to you as an animal. You need to be careful. The game was placed in a not so distant future because it's not specified when it will be. It could be 30 years, could be maybe up to 100 years in the future. But we didn't want to have it too far in the future, then it would be maybe too disconnected to people living today. But we wanted to make it a bit more in the future so that you reach this point of fox extinction, because that would be a much more dramatic environment that underlines the message of the game much better. Only this future came closer and closer. The present caught up with our game. Like we had in the game all those people with the masks, and that was in 2019, and then COVID hit, and everyone was wearing masks. So it was kind of creepy. And all the forest fires in 2020. I'm not sure you know it was called the Black Summer, and it has forest fires all over the world in Greece, in Australia, China, and also in United States, prominent in the news with red and yellow skies over California or Oregon. So this made us think, oh, yeah, this game is probably also too late already. Why did we choose a fox? Well, there's a few reasons for this. One is, of course, foxes are super cute, and people like to play foxes. And so this creates this really nice emotional attachment right away. And if you're already emotionally attached to the main character of the game, that helps. If you put that in contrast to the harsh environment they live in, it helps the message, of course. But foxes are also intelligent animals, and they are not at the end of the food chain. They are right in the middle. They are smaller animals. They can hunt, but there are also bigger animals that can be at least a threat to the fox cubs. So that's an interesting position to place a game in. And also, of course, foxes are one of the most adaptable animals. So if a fox is close to extinction, you know things have gone really bad. The art style of the game is based on the personal style of Pablo Hernandez, one of the founders, who is a 2D artist and concept artist, and he has exactly this style. It's a bit cartoony, not too realistic style, and very with a vector-based workflow. But it's simple and accessible. It has bright colors, and has simplified forms, textures, and it's more about the shapes and silhouettes that you can create with it. And I said, oh, this is a really nice style to have for the game. We need to bring it to 3D and maybe make it a bit less colorful. Everything gets this blue tint or purple tint to also create this cold atmosphere. And you add a lot of futuristic elements and maybe brutalist architecture in the background to make the game world a bit more uninviting. The shapes in the game are slightly exaggerated, like this large backpack on the scavenger there. But scale is still important. Like the animals here should be smaller than the human, and it should be kind of realistic, but not exactly. The characters also stand out a bit more than other objects or the environment itself, because the environment is a bit more smoothly shaded, and for the characters, cell shading is used. So you only have two different values of color on the fox here, for example, instead of a smooth gradient for the lighting. But it doesn't go so far as to add outlines like a full cartoony style. The humans are mostly drawn with face masks or gas masks on. That was a decision to also make them less human. So usually the ones with the masks are threatening to the fox. And there are exceptions. There are also humans that take off their mask, and there's usually a sign for, oh, these humans are approachable and are nice. And yeah, we found out this works really well. That's the first thing they tried out. They made a prototype just featuring the art and some gameplay mechanics, and they saw it's a great contrast between the cute art style and the harsh conditions you have to live in. The modeling was done in Blender, the animations in Maya, and most details were not done in textures, but modeled into the models because they were low poly models, so they could add a lot of details just with choosing different colors on the whole polygon. So on the left side, you see the texture, which is basically just a color palette with different pixels for colors, and then the UVs are just completely scaled down and moved into those boxes to get the style. Music was also very important. Manel Gilenglada was the composer for the game. He's a well-known composer in Spain as well. He does a lot of work for Spanish cinema. And Tina Gu and Rosanda Panfili are well known for working with Hans Zimmer for his movie soundtracks and also on tour constantly with the Hans Zimmer Orchestra. And Manel composed themes for the different characters because that music is a way to create emotions, and that helps really if you have different themes for the different characters in the game, like a bit scary for the scavenger or the furrier, and then you have the refugees, and then maybe the badger, which can become friendly towards you, so you get different themes there. And also the foxes themselves, or the cups, have their theme. And each cup has an assigned instrument. And when one of your cups dies, then that instrument is gone from the soundtrack. So this is subconsciously creating that connection between the music and the current state of your game. So you can see here in the HUD, maybe not very good to see, but the bottom left, you have one cup already dead here, and the purple one is the kidnapped cup. So we only have 2 cups left, so the soundtrack is not as full anymore. The message in the game is mostly brought across with environmental storytelling. This works pretty great in a side-scrolling game, because you can always put those events or objects in the background that tell a story of the place where you are in. And our main character cannot speak or understand language, so you need to show everything through action. And even if characters speak, they're mumbling because the fox would not understand it, so it would be kind of unfair to make the player understand. So we want them to put them in the same mindset there. And side-scrolling has another great effect for the gameplay. Side-scrolling gameplay is easy to control. You don't need to think about controlling the camera at the same time. You just press left or right, and then that's pretty easy to move around in the game world. So it's accessible for more players. And also it gives you, as a developer, gives you more control over the camera. You can here see the game is made in Unreal. And here the fox is on a treehouse and is pushing a box down of a treehouse, but you cannot really see where it lands. So now the designer goes in there and adjusts the cameras to get a bit higher here at the end and tilt them down a bit so you can see better where this box is landing. And now at the end there, you have a different perspective on the scene. And this kind of full control is much harder to do if a player can also control the camera on their own. Which you can do in the game a bit. You have, like, with the right thumbstick, you can move the camera a bit to see a bit further ahead, but it's more of an optional feature in the game. And now you can see the box fell down, and then maybe an apple fell out of it, and you can now go down there and try to find it. But one thing they wanted to show in the game is a change over time to the same setting. And of course, you can do that like in this scene where you see the truck in the background dumping all the garbage into the river. But it's much more effective if you visit the same river a few times and it gets more polluted over time. At the beginning, it's a nice river, you have fish to catch there, and the more often you visit it, the worse it gets. And this is, of course, in a purely side-scrolling game, is hard to do because you're constantly moving forward. There's another example they want to accomplish it is if you're in the forest and then day by day the forest gets cut down more. And I have a montage of that as well, with the fox running through the forest several times, and then there are cuts in there, and then you see the next time there would be less trees. The solution for this problem is pretty easy, if you think about it later, is adding junctions. So now you can choose paths, and they can, of course, lead around in circles back to the original path. Then you can also get back to the shelter where you started and explore the map several times. So now the game becomes more like a semi-open world, but you're still moving on those paths, so the controls are still side-scrolling controls, but you have much more emphasis now on exploring a world instead of moving on one path and then maybe solving puzzles there. And we already know puzzle solving is maybe not the best fit for this authenticity pillar we had in the beginning, because we cannot introduce button or lever puzzles because a fox wouldn't be able to do them. So the second prototype had this open world, and pretty late in development we also added a map because we found out with playtesting people get too disoriented the later the game goes because it becomes too big. But of course we already had the map in the beginning just for designing the game. You can see here there are 2 shelters, the colored ones. You start there and then you explore a bit around and you can find food sources and different events in the world. And then there are locked paths that might open up on the next day just because the environment is constantly changing. And this makes for a much more interesting game, and it allows us to visit the same areas over and over and see this change over time. And so this is the basic gameplay. You're only out at night when it's more safe for the fox, exploring. And as soon as it is dawning and the day will come, then you get back to your shelter to be safe with your cubs. And of course, foxes are not able to read maps, of course. So you could say this is also not authentic, but it's a representation of a skill that a fox has, which is orientation. They probably don't have a map in mind, but you cannot show what they have in mind, so you need a representation of that. This map is from this website in the bottom right. Someone made a guide for a game, which we find pretty awesome because they marked every event and food source on this map, so it's even useful for us as developers to look at it and where did we put stuff? Another example for a fox skill that we represented differently in the game is this skill of smell, the sense of smell, and that can be used to visualize smells that the fox mother encounters, especially when looking for the cup-napped cub. Every time you find a place where something happened to that cub, you get this visualization of what happened there just by the fox smelling there. And the same skill is also used to find food. So the purple sand leads to your missing cup, and the green sand leads to other food sources, usually living food sources that left behind a trail. Maybe there's a mouse or rabbit back there, but it also highlights food resources, like there are some berries highlighted on the bush there, so you can also find them. And this is a case where you now have to make a decision. Do I follow my cup, or are my remaining cubs already starving, and do I need to help them? If you have this kind of gameplay where you're running around with some NPCs, there's a danger that it becomes one large escort mission. And escort missions in game design, something that players get annoyed by quite easily. And if you would be annoyed by constantly having to care for everyone, that they are not all constantly left behind and in danger, that undermines the thing that we want to do, create an emotional connection to them. It weakens this connection. So we did a few things to make that less of an issue. So for once, the cubs are pretty fast. So even if you're running constantly, as soon as you stop, the cubs will catch up pretty easily. And also, the cubs cannot be harmed by most dangers in the game. Humans attacking you, traps, dogs, they are only attacking the fox mother, they are ignoring the cubs. We had that in the beginning, but that was super frustrating. If you were escaping, but one of your cubs got caught by a human, that didn't feel good. So we took that out. There's, I think, only one animal that can harm the cubs, that's an owl. And that can attack, but if it attacks, you have still a way to fight back and rescue your cub. And one additional feature we put in there is that your cubs can learn new skills through vital experiences. And then you can use your cub skills to reach food in unreachable places for a fox mother, like here, for example. And there are different of those. There is the climbing skill where a cub can climb up a tree. They can squeeze through small holes to get food, and so on. They can hunt on their own. And that helps you and also introduces a way to go back to previous areas that there's already no food left that you could reach before, but now you can go back and maybe reach those places with the new skills. And of course, you can pet the cubs. And you can do that for fun, but it also has a gameplay mechanic behind it, because your cubs can get scared or sad if something happened around them, and then you need to cuddle a bit with them, and then they are happy again. And they then run again with full speed. Of course, not all the humans in the game are evil. And this is something that was very important to get the message across, because if you hate all the humans, then you think, okay, just destroy this world, I don't care. But now you see that those humans are affected as well. They are not just the cause, they're also victims of those actions. And again, you have this nice contrast between those nice moments and the dark moments. And there are a lot of dark moments in the game. I think that's one of the most brutal things in the game that you can see, like this chicken farm or animals dying. I think this one you can prevent from happening, but this was always a discussion with the developers to hit the right spot there, because we knew from the beginning we need some violence, but we don't want to make a game that's only for adults, because I think the topic is also for a bit older teenagers is a topic they're very open to. It's not a game for kids, but we wanted to hit an age rating that's below 18. So at least we got rid of splatter effects and too much blood and stuff like that, and only added the amount of violent scenes that were necessary to get the message across, but would not alienate players too much that are open for the issues, but would be too taken aback from seeing all this stuff. In the end, we got those ratings. They're different in each country. That's how the rating systems work. We have 16 for European system there and 12 in Germany. I think it's somewhere in between those values everywhere. And yeah, we had the release of the game. We had the idea that we want to have everything around the game also, as far as possible, fit the message. So you see the PC box is a pure cardboard box. We tried to get rid of plastic where we could. The other boxes are more standardized by the console manufacturers, so not a lot that we can do there. But also the merchandise we had on Gamescom were little spruce seeds where people could plant their own tree. And the digital edition on Steam we sold or still sell. There's a special edition that is a Save Our Planet edition that includes the soundtrack and wallpapers and so on. And also we plant one tree for each copy we sell this way via the One Tree Planted organization. And T-shirts and merchandise that we have in THQ Nordic online shop. It's also fair trade, organic cotton, and so on to fit the message. The reception was really great of the game. It was very well received, both from press and players. We got overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam, and we're nominated for the Game Awards. We didn't win that, unfortunately, the Games for Impact Award. But what we won was the BAFTA Award for Game Beyond Entertainment, and Pablo and Javi were there in person and accepted the award, and what they said is exactly what was important for them in the beginning, that they wanted to make games that show that video games are a powerful tool to talk about important topics. So for us, a game with a message, works best if the game is not just a tool to deliver a message, but if a message also improves the game. Because it was designed that at the very beginning, having the game set in the world that is fully supportive of a message makes the game experience more intense, because people know this could be a possible future where we are heading towards. Makes them feel that the game world they are playing is much more real and they are much more invested in it. And that helps the experience. And it's always very good to know in the beginning what kind of game you're making and have those design pillars that you had in the beginning define how you are judging your game design decisions. But what we also found out is that you should not strictly stick to them. Because next to those 3 pillars we had in the beginning, we also have at least 2 more concerns that we should also always value. That is our budget. We cannot do all the things we want to do in the game. But the most important thing is a word that every game designer hates and developer, fun. You need to make a game that's actually fun, or at least, let's say, enjoyable to play. You're invested in and you liked playing it. So in some cases, we decided against those pillars in the beginning. For example, the game in the beginning was designed as a more like permadeath roguelike game. So if you die, it's over, to support that pillar of that every decision matters. But we found out that was just too frustrating. So now if you die, you can just replay the last night. And even if you just lose a cup, if you don't want to continue, you can go back to the main menu and replay the same night. So you can kind of cheat through the game if you want to. It's open to players. And there are a few of those decisions are made just to make the game experience better. Because in the end, we're a game company and want to make an entertainment product. And the most important thing you can do to bring a message to people is to make people enjoy the product that transports the message. And yeah, what we also learned is games are really a powerful message to bring across those topics, because we saw countless players really play the game, being invested in the game, and even crying at certain points in the game. And this was a much bigger reaction than we had hoped for. And yeah, that's great. It makes a lot of difference to be working on those kind of games. So I want to thank everyone for here, for listening to this talk. I want to thank the FMX for inviting me as the last surviving game talk. And of course, I want to thank the developers, HeroBeat Studios, they are awesome. And also everyone on the Handy Games side that worked on the game. Especially the other producer also worked on the game, Daniel Weber. We worked together during the whole time, because it was a big project, several years. Release was last year in July, and we were very happy about the product. So if you have any questions, I'm available here, or maybe later you can find me at the FMX. Thank you.